Good night, everyone. Today, God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Aaron J. Space around here. You get your word on tonight. And the topic gonna be Achan sin. That's one of the Israelites. They conquer their land. As soon as they conquer their land, they're gonna do something, break one of God command. We're gonna come from Joshua chapter 7, verse 1 to 26. Now before the Israelites enter the land, just enter the land now. Now God told them destroy all the devoted things in that land. Simple. When you enter the land, destroy all. That's the reason why they all have to get destroyed in the land, because they all were worshiping other gods, all kind of images, all kind of devoted things they was worshiping. So don't have anything that will cause destruction on yourself. And I see God told them this. So you're gonna have one out of the nation. Israel now is a nation. You're gonna take one person, you know, to mess up, gonna cause the whole Israelite. God gonna get mad with the whole nation. Because God had just told them, you know, go to the when you go enter the land, make sure you destroy all devoted things that's in that land. And if you don't, it's gonna be destruction on yourself. So now God said, go and destroy, and burn everything, burn all the devoted things that's in that land. You know, it's things they cannot keep. So the Israelite was unfaithful. They did not listen. Well, it's only one did it. The Israelite was unfaithful in regard to the devoted things. Achan, took some of them. He was the one took some of them, and so the Lord anger had burned against them. Now, see, when he stole the things, he hid them in his tent. Now he thought, cause nobody wasn't around, he thought nobody didn't saw, but somebody saw, and it was God. God can see everything. You can't hide nothing from him. He hid it from the rest of the Israelites. Nobody didn't know what he did. You know, God said to Israel, "You shall destroy when they conquered Jacob." So it was not that they found a good, use for something that was going to be thrown away. Because God said destroy. And this was a serious offense because it was in a direct, define, def, to command of God. Now it was a defense of God. It was a command from God. God told them before they even enter the land. When you enter the land, destroy all the devoted things. Do not keep nothing. Destroy it, burn it. But you got one person didn't pay no attention at all. Didn't want to follow the instruction. Didn't want to follow the command. So Achan sinned. He the one that sinned. He buried it in his tent. He thought no one will find it. He thought no one saw him. But God did. God saw and sees everything. Now his sin caused the whole Israelite, trouble with God. And they're gonna feel it too. Because without God, you cannot defeat your enemy. And they're gonna see that then. So now Joshua had sent men to Jericho to Ai, and told them to go up and spy, on the reason. And so they did what Joshua said, they spy out. So now they return and they say, you don't have to now it's a small, they got a few little people there. He said you don't have to bring our whole army. They don't have but a few people there. So they went spy the line. They don't have but a few people there. You could just send out by 2 or 3 thousand of men. So 3,000 men had went up. But they was rooted by the men of Al. He is the king. Who killed about 36 of the Israelites. They got defeated. Because one person had sinned. God had told him, I need to destroy all the devoted things. But he didn't. So God said God anger was against the whole nation. And so God turned his back on them and walked away. And then Joshua took an order without consulting with God. You know, he ordered them, you go to do the spies. So when they came back in turn and give him the information, he just sent out the men without consulting with God. So from the city gate, as well as the stones, cribbers, and struck them down, on the slab. That's right there on the corner. So they got struck down, meaning they got defeated, and then they killed 36 of their men. And then they turn around and chase the rest of the Israelites, and Joshua placed this order. So as this is the heart of the people. So when they saw 36 of their men was killed, the heart of the Israelite had melted, their fear, and it had become like water, because they hadn't cried so much, and their fear, because they normally defeat the enemy. But without God, they cannot defeat. So I don't know why, they wants to go against them. And it really was one person. But it made it bad for all of them. So God was not with them when they tried to fight their enemy. And they got defeated. And they got defeated. The Israelites got scared, they got fear, they cried so much that it was like water. So now God is mad, with anger, and he turned his back on them because one of the Israelite, Achan, he sinned, he stole the devoted things, and when God told him to destroy, so one person's sin affect the whole Israelite. There were 36 men, or their men was killed, and they were chased down, and this is how their life would be without God. This is how their life gonna be without God. They will not be able to defeat their enemy, without God. So that means to have God in your life, they had to obey His command, and they refused. So now their heart are melted with fear because without God, their men was killed. So now when Joshua heard the 36 of their men, was killed, so Joshua tore his clothes off and he fell face down on the ground. And then the elders, the elders that he picked is his age, so 6 of the elders, they fell down on their face also. When they fell down to the ground, their face was towards God or the Lord. So they was praying. They was praying to God because they know they cannot make it without God. So they were face down on the ground before the altar of the Lord. So Joshua had stood face down on the ground until evening. So that was a long prayer they was doing. And the elders, they fell down along with him. They was praying to God. God, we need you, God. Our men is getting killed. We getting defeated, God. We need you, God. We can't do this without you. So sometimes, you get to that point where that God is all that you need. And see, that's what God wants you to get to that place where God is all that you need. And so that's why you're supposed to pray on good time, bad time. Now Joshua figured, that was the spies came and figured, oh, they ain't got but a few people up in there, in that city. We got this here. You ain't got to bring the whole army. Just bring the 3,000. And Joshua probably figured, he the leader. He probably figured since the situation is small, I don't need to call God. He got pride because he the leader. But sometimes God wants us to come to him with a small problem and a big problem. Because when you don't consult God as a leader, and you sending out orders, look what happened. So now Joshua had heard, he face down, and he stood face down for evening, until evening, because he was face down praying to God. And the elders did the same thing. And then they sprinkled dust on their head. you know. And so, and another thing, while they was face down, that was a sign of mourning, you know, for the 36 that got killed. You know, that's how they do. So now Joshua and the elders, the Israel, they face down ground, face down on the ground, you know, to evening and sprinkling the dust on their head, and they bowed down before the altar of the Lord. So Joshua and the elders tore their clothes off, sprinkling, you know, dust, because they was confused that they was defeated, you know, from a small city. Small, they got defeated from a small city. Now you know you don't have to be big. You don't have to have a big army around you to defeat someone. You know David was by himself when he tore that big old giant down. You know, so Joshua is confused. You know, he said he confused that we got defeated from a small city. You know, and Allah, he's the king. You know, he placed the order, go ahead on attack them. You know, a particular Jacob victory. So they went before God in deep humility and sorrow to receive his instruction. So now you want to go to God for instruction. First, you place an order out without consulting God. You know, because you figure, okay, this is a small situation. I don't have to consult God. You know, I'm the leader, and I'm about to do this here my way. You know, and you see, we see when we do things our way, you know, it will not work out. It will fall apart. You know, we have to, especially when you're on your journey, we have to get guidance from God. You know, so when our lives, you know, is falling apart, you know, we also should turn to God for direction and help. You know, Joshua did not do that. You know, so Joshua and the elders, you know, they humbled themselves. You know, and then they were able to hear God's words. You know, and that's what they did. They prayed, and they prayed. They was down there until evening came. You know, because they had to clean themselves, humble themselves, and everything else. You know, to speak to so they can hear from God. You know, because a lot of time God will not hear you with all the noise in your head and all around you. You know, we have to. That's what I have to do. I have to. A lot of time I have to meditate or to feel God present or get guidance, and that's what they had to do. You know, they had to pray, and they prayed for a long time. They was down there until it got evening. You know, they was humbling themselves, you know, to God, to hear God's word. You know, so when Joshua first went against the king, he did not consult God, but rely on his strength of his army to defeat the small city. The city was small. He thought the Israelite, because the Israelite is a large group of people, a whole nation. You know, so he went on his strength in the army of the Israelite, and he thought they was gonna be able to defeat the small city. And we see there wasn't. You know, they killed 36 of them, and then they went to chase the rest of the Israelites down. You know, so they got defeated in all kind of ways. You know, so Joshua only turned to God when 36 men, you know, was dead, and he cried out to God. And that's how some of us do. We don't want to consult God. You know, we have pride and try to do things on our own strength. But then when trouble come, you know, he got 36 and he know there is God, you know, that's God chosen him. Even though God mad, he still love him. You know, so if somebody killed him, you know, he feels it bad because they had killed 36 of the Israelites. You know, by him being a leader, he know he placed that order. You know, so too often we rely on our own skills and strength. You know, because you know the Israelite is military. And see, Joshua confused because they always win. But you always win when you had God. Without God, you know, you could not win. And so he was confused that they got defeated. You know, so too often we rely on our own skills and strength, especially when attacks before us seem easy. So when it seems easy, we think we got it. The big test, we want to call God. But God wants us to come to Him with the small stuff, the medium stuff, the large stuff. Can we see now? Just because it was small, they did not go to God. And look what happened. So we go to God with big stuff. But the small stuff, we think we got it. So we will go to God, first, with big stuff and small problems. So now we know to go to God with small problems and big problems. Don't have pride because you feel the small problem, you got it. You figure that God can tell you, well, why you coming to me? Just small. You the leader. You take care of it. But sometimes God wants you to come to Him with your small problem and your big problems. So he probably had pride and didn't want to go to God because the problem was small, and God chose him to be a leader. He just been a leader for a temporary for a little while. So Joshua he did go to God, react on his own strength. He did not go to God and act on his own strength. And he made a mistake. That 36 Israelite had got killed because he placed an order for them to go attack that king. And so only God know what lies ahead. Because see, God always go ahead of us in our journey. He always know. Joshua sent spies out. The spies came and told him, okay, it's a small group of people. You don't have to send the whole army. We got this. So he went on the strength of the spies, what they said, and still did not consult God. The journey, our journey, God always go ahead of us. Consult God first. It will save our life and it will save other lives. Because see, the Israelites, the 36 could have been saved. So imagine Joshua and the elders praying, this way to God, pulling their heart out to God. When you make a mistake, acknowledge your mistake and pull your heart out to God. He was honest. He was telling God everything. So it was a prayer of a man who is afraid and he was confused by what is happening all around him. He was confused because he know the Israelite always win. So he was confused. So he was laying down there, bowing down, putting all his heart out to God. Because he know he made a mistake. Ain't nothing wrong with you making a mistake, long as we learn from our mistake. So when life falling apart, Joshua, he pulled out his real thoughts to God. Ain't nothing wrong for us, speak our minds to God. But as long as we respect him as a holy God, because see, Joshua, he pulled out real thoughts to God in that prayer. He was just pulling everything out because he feel like he was to blame, that 36 Israelite had got killed. So Joshua messed up. He acknowledged that he messed up, and he thought, he can he thought he could hide the need from God is ignoring the only one who can really help us. He had no choice but to go to God. So we facing problems, even if we mess up. We still have to go to God. He the only one can fix it. When our life falling apart and everything, ain't nobody but God can put the pieces back together. And He will on a second package. God gonna step in. He gonna get that king who placed that order to kill the Israelite. You done mess with God people. God was mad for a little while. He don't stay mad a long time. Now you done killed my people. I'm coming to get you. So God gonna straighten everything out, and the Israelite will be defeated. You know, they will defeat that king who placed that orders to kill 36 Israelites. So God is all knowing and all powerful, and that His love is everlasting. Just like I said, He was mad. He was mad for a while, but He will step in the second time. But then they got to see when before they conquered their land. Remember, the other package like 2 or 3 days ago, God had them to clean themselves, concentrate themselves. So they was holy. Once you clean yourself, you become to be holy. They had to be holy before they approach God. So that means when they conquered that land, they was supposed to be still clean and still holy. But you had one of them had touched all that uncleanness stuff. So now they got to get concentrate again. So Joshua said to the Lord, why did you ever bring these people across the Jordan to deliver us into the hands of the Ammonites, to destroy us? So God told them to go this way. Remember yesterday they went over. The priest said, God cleared that water out, cut that water out, and they were able to cross over on dry ground. But now Joshua pulling his heart out. Like I said, he pulling his heart out. He telling his real thought. Now he said, why you brought these people over here to cross this Jordan instead of the other way? They got defeated out here in this land. So Joshua said, only if we would have stayed on the other side. So Joshua let God know that Israel had been routed, by their enemy. The Canaanites and the other people of the country will hear about this. Now, see, Joshua worrying about they got defeated. They had 36 Israelites got killed. Now, Joshua said everybody in the town, all over, gonna hear that the Israelite was defeated. And, that's why Joshua confused, because they always win. You always win when they had God. But God was not with them this time because Joshua did not consult God. So now he figured that everybody gonna hear that they got defeated. So hear about they got defeated. Now surrounded us and wipe out. It will wipe out the name of the earth. So he worried about their name. Their name about to be wiped out. Cause you remember the last time, everybody had feared the Israelite. Because they was powerful. They kept on winning. So now the world gonna get out. They didn't win this time. They got defeated. So what then will you do for your own great name? So they saying the Israelite name gonna be going down the drain. So Joshua, he just upset. He's telling God his true feeling. He said, "But what you gonna do about your own name?" Because the Israelite name gonna go out there. They've been defeated. So now Joshua concerned about their name will be wiped out from the earth. So now people used to fear the Israelite, but to hear, they got defeated. Joshua told God, "What you gonna do about your own great name?" So the Lord said to Joshua, "Now you worrying about God. God got hand in him." So now the Lord said to Joshua, "Stand up." See, he's still down, face down on the ground. Talking that stuff with his face down on the ground. So God said, stand up. I need you to stand up. What are you doing? God said, what are you doing down on the floor, on the ground? What are you doing down on the ground? With your face down. Now, so the Israel has sinned and they have violated your covenant, which you had commanded them to keep. So he's telling them, they broke his covenant. So they have taken some of the devoted things, and they have stolen, and they have lied, and they have put them with their own possession. So that is why the Israelite cannot stand against their enemy. So God already know. So God sees everything. So God said, that's why they lost. God said they cannot stand against their enemy, until they turn their back and run because they have been made liability to destruction. And remember earlier, God had said, I need you to destroy all that stuff in that land. And if you don't, you putting destruction on your own self. What you thought God was playing? And they go right there into that land, instead of them destroying Achan, he took the stuff and he hid it in his tent. So God said, I will not be with them until all the stuff that's stolen, they have to destroy it, and whatever among them is devoted to destruction. So they got to get rid of all this stuff. For God to come back on their side, they have to destroy all the devoted things that they had got out their land. Pretty much just that one person that got out their land. So now God had went with them. You know, God want them to concentrate themselves. So God is telling Joshua, I need you to tell all the Israelites they have to concentrate themselves. That mean they had to clean themselves from one because of one person has sinned, but it affect all. In fact, all of them. In fact, the whole the Israelites. Prepare themselves for tomorrow. So to tomorrow, they have to. God said, the devoted things among the Israel. With that, they cannot stand against their enemy. You know, they have to remove all the devoted things that they stolen. So with the devoted things and without God, they could not win. That's why they got defeated. You know, devoted things should be destroyed by fire among with all that belongs to it. Everything they got, they have to destroy. They have to destroy. Achan, he had sinned. He was the only one that took the stuff and affect the whole Israelite. Judgment on the entire nation. He sinned, but it was judgment on the whole nation. Now, although it was one man failure, God saw it as a nation disobedient to all the nation law. See, God had made that commandment for all the nation. All the Israelite. So when one person had sinned, when God brought that commandment to all of them, it had affect all of them. It like all of them had disobeyed the command. So Achan sin bring judgment on the entire nation, and although it was one man failure, God saw it as a nation disobedient to the nation that he took his commandment of his law. So God needed the entire nation to be committed to the job they have agreed to. See, they agreed to this. So God expected them to stick to that commandment. Conquer the land. So when one person failed, everyone had failed. So God could not, let a king, God could not let him, be unpunished, and the whole nation had to take responsibility for that. For preventing disobedience, this discipline, so they fall by family, by cleaning before God. They had to clean before God. And then Joshua said to one that sinned, give glory, told him to give glory to the Lord, the God of Israel, and honor him. Because you sinned against God. So Joshua wants you to honor God. Tell me what you have done. See, God already told him what he done. But Joshua still telling the old man, tell me what you had done. Do not hide it from him. And see, that's what he did. He didn't know God was going to see. He took the stuff from anyone, and let nobody see, but he thought he could get away with it. So he not knowing that God had saw what he did. So Achan, he replied, so it was true. I had sinned, against the law, the God of Israel, and he was honest, and told the truth, what he had done. Now, at least he was honest, and he told what he had done, so he said, when he saw the furnace, he said it was beautiful. That's the reason why he took it. He said it was beautiful. He said the robe was beautiful, the Babylon was beautiful, 200 scattered in silver and raw gold, weighted. This is a lot of stuff he had took. I converted them, and I took them, and I hid them in a ground inside my tent with the silver underneath. So he took a whole lot of stuff and went hide it underground in his tent. He told Joshua everything what he had did. And Joshua had sent a message. to his tent. So after he told him everything, Joshua sent the messenger to his tent to find all this stuff, so get it out of there. So Joshua had sent a message to his tent to search for the things, he had stolen. And so there was it was hidden in his tent with the silver underneath, just like he said. So they took all the things and brought it to Joshua, and all the Israelites had sprayed them out. So when he took a whole lot of stuff. So the Israelites sprayed it all out, because God wanted them to burn it up and destroy it and everything else for God to get back on their side. So Achan had thought the things he had took, he said was beautiful. So now, he know these this life, for that. He would lose his life, you know, because he stole this devoted thing because he felt like it was beautiful. So Joshua said to Achan, why have you brought this trouble on us? So what he did, he brought trouble on the whole nation. So the Lord would bring trouble on you, and then all the Israel stone him. They stone him, they the command from God, and stone all the things that he stolen. They burnt it, destroyed. So now Achan, he is dead. From stealing all that stuff when God told him not to. And he been stoned. So they had a large pile, of rocks to remain, and then God had turned his anger. So now God is not mad no more. Cause see, they had to get rid of all that stuff that he stole, and God had, for God to get back on their side. So then God turned from his anger, you know, and place a call. So the place is called the Valley of Anger for every space. So that's the end of that story there. Achan has sinned. That's one of the Israelites. And God had told him before you enter the land, you go get all the image and all the devoted things, and you have to destroy it. And you have to burn it all up. But he feel like, oh, it's so beautiful. Let me get some of this stuff. And he took a whole lot of stuff, took it to his tent and buried it, but he thought nobody didn't see. Not knowing that God sees everything. You know, and so that affects the whole nation. Because God gave that command to the whole nation. So when one sin, that affect all of them. And so they got defeated by their enemy because God was not with them. And so Joshua, he got so confused. He never saw the Israelites get defeated like that. 36 men had got killed. And by Joshua the leader, he got mad and he got upset. So he put face down on the ground and prayed to God for a long time. And he was down there until evening came. He was still down there praying to God, pouring all his heart out. Because he felt like he made a mistake. He felt like he placed the order and sent him out there to get that king. Without consulting God. See, when you got a small problem, a big problem, God wants you to come to him. Now, he figured he a leader, and the spies said, oh, they got a few people. We got this it, and took their word. But still, he should have consulted God, but he did not consult God. He did it on his own. See, when we do things on our own, it gonna fall apart. When you ain't got God in your life, it gonna fall apart, and you're gonna get defeated. Now the Israelites see. Everything will fall apart when you ain't got God. You cannot defeat your enemy if you ain't got God. So now they see how they get defeated without God. So that's all the story I have for y'all tonight. And remember, you have small problem, big problem. Don't have too much pride. To talk to God about the small problem, because you figure you're a leader. You feel like you're the head of the household. Sometimes a leader, sometimes a head of the household. Sometimes we still need guidance from God. I know I'm always need guidance from God. This is a wicked world. We need knowledge, consentment, and discernment and everything else to live and figure things out in this world. So now, don't sometimes the smallest things will be complicated. And you'll think it'll be easy solution, but sometimes the small things be complicated. So don't never have pride and think we cannot go to God with the small stuff. Joseph, Joshua did not consult God. He just placed that order and sent the Israelite out there, and 36 of them got killed. So that's why he felt responsible. He did not consult God for guidance. We had to consult God for guidance for everything. Everything will fall apart. That's all the word I have for y'all today. Y'all have a blessed day, and I see you on the next video.